Hey, sports fans, it's your favorite program of the week, Athletics Chat. This is Larry Eater in lovely Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin, the cheese capital of the world. And I am paired with Stuart Weir, who is in lovely Oxford, England, the intellectual capital and vexing capital of the world. Stuart, hello, good evening.
Hi. Hello.
How are you?
Well, yeah, we've got 25 million people in the UK vaccinated now for the first time.
Wow, that's awesome. Now, have you had your first shot yet?
I have. Yeah, I've had it about 8 weeks ago, and I'm due for my next one at the end of the month.
Now, did you grow horns or did you speak in tongues or anything?
Nothing.
Okay, and you don't feel like you had a little chip put in you by Bill Gates or anything?
I don't think so. A friend of mine actually wrote on Twitter that he woke up grumpy the morning after having it, and then he realized he woke up grumpy every morning.
I like that.
It probably wasn't the vaccine.
Well, this is Athletics Chat number 43. We had a little hiatus last week, and we're back. So what we wanted to talk about is, one, how much we enjoy Torun, and two, what we learned from Torun in regards to COVID. Would you care to start, kind sir?
Well, I think we learned that it is possible to do a good event in the current climate, but we also learned that COVID is just very unpredictable. I mean, the one I feel really sorry for is the Belgian hurdler, Bering.
Yes.
Who had 6 COVID tests. The first 3 were negative. The 4th one was positive. The 5th and the 6th one were negative. But she wasn't allowed to compete.
Wow.
Because she got that one negative test.
Yeah.
And one member of the British team tested positive, and so the entire British party is now quarantining at home.
So at least they got to go home, right?
At least they got to go home.
Boy, so how long are they in their house? 14 days?
About 10 days. I mean, I spoke to Jessie Knight yesterday, and she said, your timing is perfect. I've just finished my house circuit. Because that's all she can do fitness-wise.
Wow. What was your favorite performance by a British team member? I'm going to break it up into some things because that's an unfair question, okay? In the middle distances, what was your favorite performance?
I suppose Keely Hodkinson.
Yeah.
Because she's only 19 and she ran such a clever race, and she did heat, semi, and final. And I mean, I would guess she may never have done that before in her life. To have the championship situation, and in the final, it was a really slow race, and the way she just sat on the shoulder of the leader and effectively said to her, I am going to sit here. I'm not going to lead this race so you can shoot at me, but I'm going to be perfectly positioned to take anyone on who makes a move. Just to have the maturity and the patience to do that. And then when she was ready, to go for it.
Yeah.
And win the race. And I mean, she's 19. She's coached by Trevor Painter, who's married to Jenny Meadows. The official term is that Trevor is the coach and Jenny is the mentor.
I like that.
Obviously, Jenny knows a little bit about running 800s.
Yeah, no, she was. I watched the BBC broadcast as well, and I got to tell you, Hannah England was on there. Jenny was on there. Fantastic. I also like the way Steve Cram was quite mellow, except when he's he gets into it, and I really like that because it's quite enthusiastic, and I love him describing the ends of races. He gets it, and he brings you right in there. So it was wonderfully done, and I thought that they did a couple nice interviews with Andrew Posey. And Andrew was a little disappointed, but he was also realistic. And I thought you covered him so well when you did those stories a couple weeks ago, which I enjoyed. What did you?
Andrew started the season about a month later than he wanted to because he picked up an eagle, and so therefore he was frustrated not to win. But he recognised that he was a month behind and wasn't as sharp as he would have been if he started earlier.
I thought Jody Williams. I went back and kind of looked at her stuff. What impressed me was the note that you had put together about having not run 400 indoors in ages, and she took out a medal from the inside lane. That's insanity. But she was having a great time out there.
Yeah. Funny enough, I'm due to talk to her tomorrow.
Oh, lovely. That'll be fun.
Yeah. I mean, I've known Jodie since 2013, perhaps. She won 2 medals, a European and Commonwealth, in 2014, and then just didn't move forward from there. She went to America for a bit, semi-finalist in Rio, but she seems to be in a happy place. And I mean, it's interesting that I've just the piece I've sent you, which will go up sometime this week, what Christian Malcolm said about Jodie in his press conference about what an inspiration she was to so many people. And I mean, she hadn't run indoors at all for 4 years. Just decided this year. I mean, she said because she hadn't had a season last year, she thought it would be good just to try running indoors this year to see where she was at. And then
I think it makes sense.
Decided that, she was just determined. And again, I mean, it's a point that Christian Malcolm made. For somebody who's basically a sprinter, to find yourself running 400 meters in 3 days is quite a lot.
I think so too. No, she did that. That relay was amazing. I felt bad for the Polish girl, Justyna Swiatek, who we've been seeing in stuff, since 2010 perhaps? And in her hometown, she had a pull out. It sounds like I translated one of her notes from Polish that she had a small injury warming up or something. But most unfortunate. But British relays both took medals. Holly Archer, I thought, was that women's 1500. People need to understand how slow they went out. They were at 5-minute pace till the half mile. So they just and they just went out, took off after that, and it was an exciting race, and there was some bumping and pushing and grinding and all that kind of stuff, and I was surprised more people were not DQ'd.
I mean, I do think that it's one of those things we've talked about before, that our sport lets itself down by DQing Holly Archer and making her wait 3 hours and then reinstating her. That was
a I really think sometimes track meets need what we would call an ombudsman, someone just to say, hey, look, let it alone. Nope, let it alone. Because it's we make our, you suggested it, we just make our sport look inane when we have some rule like that and we DQ somebody for nothing. I mean, it's just
I mean, you mentioned Steve Cram, and Steve Cram said on commentary, yes, you can argue that Holly should have been DQ'd. she did push someone, but if you DQ her, there are 6 others who did the same.
Yeah.
Hannah England said it was probably the most physical 1,500 meters I've ever seen.
Yeah, no, and she was in Moscow, so
Yeah.
she's seen a few physical ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to comment on her commentary. Precise, very thoughtful, a nice compliment to Steve Cram. I thought Jenny was, as always, too. They're both very well. They understand their individual events. They are comfortable with the English language, which is always helpful. And they know how to say things besides, yeah, you know. That doesn't happen. And that's very comforting in this world of social media feeds, you know, and all that kind of jazz.
What I think Hannah does really well is to explain to the general viewer how you run an 800 or a 1,500. You know, why is somebody leading? Why does somebody not want to lead?
Yeah.
You know, the whole tactics.
I think that's something that if we're going to get more people who to appreciate athletics, you need to have more commentators who can do that, quite frankly, and talk about you know, the challenges of doing the hurdles, putting sprinting and hurdling together, you know, and or how someone throws together like the long jump. Talk about both long jumps were fantastic, but the women's long jump in particular, where you know, Malaika Mihambo got the surprise from what Mary Ben, and from was it Ukrainian or Ukrainian? I think
Ukrainian,
and who dropped to 692, and Mihambo couldn't answer that.
Well, but the irony, she actually did answer it, but she took off so far behind, literally behind the board, she didn't touch the board. And had she made a legal jump from the front of the board, she would have won.
And that it was Backley, and who else was describing that? It was Jessica Ennis's coach,
Tony Mantello.
Tony is really fun.
Yeah.
With Backley, the way that he announces, which he's very anecdotal, and he's telling you about how great they are and stuff. And then Tony is just like, well, she hadn't done the steps right. And he was the one who pointed it out.
Yeah.
And you're going, my gosh, you know? But I didn't know how, I hadn't seen Tony with Mancello with Backley before.
Yeah.
And I was wondering how they were going to be, and they were quite good.
Well, I loved the conversation between Steve Cram and Backley when Cram was arguing that you shouldn't be DQ'd if you put your foot if you just touch the line.
Yeah.
And Backley said to him, so if I throw my javelin and break the world record and they call me for a foul, can I say I wasn't far over the line?
That was good. No, and you can see Backley doing that too. Yeah, I mean it's something distance runners don't get, you know. Or I mean, because I remember I was asking Thomas Walsh last week, is it hard to stay for a spinner? Is it hard to stay in the ring? And he said, actually, some of the positions, unless you've done constant repetition, it is quite difficult, you know, because you see how fast their feet move, you know.
I mean, I love the way some of the javelin throwers throw themselves on the ground.
Okay.
You know, to stop themselves stop the momentum, carry them over.
Yeah, it's too much. Yeah, no, I think it keeps it fun, but it also sheds light on the difference on how track and field athletics is communicated in the UK is in the US. We've got a couple good teams. Paul Swangard out of Bolden and Lewis Johnson are very, very good. We've got a couple good Olympic teams too, but sometimes they take themselves a little too seriously, and we lose viewers. And we just can't afford to do that. Both pole vaults had drama. Angelica Mosier, in the women's, she's been around for a while. I did not expect her to go as high as she did. I don't think she expected it. And then Holly, pretty much because she hasn't had any experience, but she's only had 3 meets this year, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
She needed 3 more meets. She's
been incredibly unlucky because she went to France to do 2 meets, and they wouldn't let her do the first one. She had to quarantine, and she was in a position to win the $10,000 for the indoor series by competing in Madrid, and Spain wouldn't let her in.
Wow.
So that was tough. And I mean, Holly is the loveliest person in the sport. And so she's so gracious when she loses. But, she has competed with Moser 20 times in the past and won 20 of them. And then Moser wins the one where there's a medal at stake.
Yeah. No. It's about how people perform on the important days. Yeah. And that's part of the challenge for all of us.
Yeah. But you're right about seeing, say, Holly wasn't sharp enough, because in fact I think on 2 of the 3 fails she actually was over the bar and hit it on the way down.
Yeah, I will look at that. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. The complexion in the men's pole vault changed when Renaud Villeneuve had to pull out. But what was nice to see is the emotional relationship between Renaud and Valentin, who took the silver behind Mondo. And it was nice to see a male Polish pole vaulter, Piotr Lisek, take third in the he just was in the pole vault. He just looked good because they had the defending champion had and didn't make it out of the heats, I believe. Or the qualifying round, and it was I think it was at 570 or something, and he was having a tough time. So that was difficult. I thought the men's long jump was at 8:35. Was Miltiadis, and I thought that was fantastic. It's always fun for me to see who comes out, who's motivated by a world championship, And sometimes the smaller the country, you still get 1 or 2 people from the same country who will show them how to do the long jump. It will do like a little coaching clinic. Let's talk about COVID now. We chatted just a little bit about it. It looks like. Go ahead.
I think the disturbing thing that we learned from Turin about the Olympics is that there will be athletes who go to Tokyo to compete, test positive, and don't get to compete.
Yeah.
Through no fault of their own.
Yeah.
And of course, that depending on how they're doing it, if you are actually close to somebody, you will be pinged by the app and told to isolate.
That makes sense.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and
Well,
I mean
that's
the
what
way
I'm worried about. Go ahead.
go on, I was going to say, and the way the whole entire British team is currently in isolation.
And then we just
You know
heard
that.
that
Well,
Giancarlo Tambieri from Italy
mm,
and a
mm,
couple other the athletes too.
yeah, but I mean because the British team were under instructions to bubble
Mm-hmm.
among themselves, so that means you protect yourself from other people. But it also means if somebody in that team tests positive, then everyone else is affected. And so you could imagine a team going to Tokyo, somebody in the team tests positive, and the entire team has to pull out.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's the thing that's scary. Well, what we've been told already is if, as a member of the media, we fly over and someone on the plane tests positive, we're
Yeah.
sitting in a hotel for 2 weeks quarantined. So that's another, $4,500 that I don't have. And so it's those kind of things are scary. And it's, I think as we get closer, they're going to figure things out. But right now, they've got to talk about it almost in the theoretical sense. And it's a little frightening.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I like about Turin is just some of the British athletes who would not make the team normally, but were able to compete in that. I mean, like take James Williams. He's 29. He's never made a team before. He makes the team in the 400 meters. He finishes up getting a relay medal.
Yeah.
And in the individual, he qualified for the semi-final, and he's a full-time teacher. You know, he's not a full-time athlete. He's a full-time teacher. And you know what he did between his semi-final, between his heat, his prelim, and his semi-final, was he taught a maths class for his school on Zoom.
Oh, neat! Wow, that would be really fun. That would be really fun.
You know, so that people like that, you know, who obviously was so thrilled to get to a championship. And I mean, Jessie Knight, I talked to yesterday, you know, getting to our first championship. And I mean, she's a primary school teacher, and there's a lovely thing on social media of her class watching her.
I saw that.
Watching her running.
Got that put up there. I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah.
I thought that was really, really good. You know, I wanted to interject that for the last 4 weeks, 4 of our 5 or 6 most popular stories came from that pole vault coaches clinic that you did, and people loved it. And so the only way that most of them have been able to see that is through the link that you provided. So thank you. And I thought the pieces were really a lot of fun, but it's a combination of breaking it up into a lesson people can digest and then giving them the tape to see too, that I think makes it work so well, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, that was the thing with Holly Bradshaw, Katie Najot, and Katerina Stefanidi. And for me, what made that was their honesty. You know, their honesty in talking about what they found difficult. And I mean, it's really fascinating that we used that as a headline about Kat saying, I'll never retire from pole vaulting. I'll just stop being paid.
Yep.
Whereas Katie, you know, and Kat saying, when I was at college, I used to find college really stressful, and my release was to go and vault. And then Katie Najot says, really? The thing that I found most stressful at college was the vaulting.
Any other deep thoughts on COVID in an indoor setting?
No, I mean, I think it showed that it was possible, but it shows that there are always risks.
Yeah. Now, I had a conversation today with one of my reporters wanting to know if he should plan to go to the Olympic trials or the Prefontaine, and I explained that the Prefontaine's in August, and right now we don't know if they'll have audience there or not. And the Adidas meet, which is also a great meet, is moved to Oklahoma, and we don't know. I'm just waiting to be told, this is what we're going to allow some people in. But right now, I don't believe it's going to happen. I just can't see them letting an audience in yet. I think the first time we're going to see an audience again is perhaps next spring.
Well, in May, Premier League Soccer, for their last 2 games of the season, are going to be allowed 10,000 fans in the stadium.
Wow.
And if that is deemed to be a success, then it opens the door for other sports. And I mean, certainly Joe Coates has always said that the anniversary games are not viable without paying spectators.
Yeah,
so
I don't.
We'll certainly be hoping.
What have you heard from British Athletics on their ability to put on events?
Well, they're planning to do the Olympic trials, which will be in June, and the anniversary games, which I believe are the 13th of July. Now, the anniversary games this year are on a Tuesday night, not a weekend event.
That's weird.
Well, it's a one-day event. It may be partly to avoid clashes because, the criticism that in the past they've had weekend events that clash. Part of the complication is because the London Stadium, as it calls itself now, is only available for track and field athletics for 1 month.
Wow.
So, because it's part of the deal of financing it, the West Ham soccer team have it for 11 months. And so therefore, there are only 4 weekends. And if you get a weekend that clashes with something that's bigger, then TV isn't interested.
Wow.
So that, I think, is the problem. And that's on a Tuesday. But it is going to be quite a different event, because I think one of the great things with the anniversary games being 2 days is the number of British athletes who got to compete on the big stage. And I mean, I remember Jake Whiteman saying to me when he was a junior, he got a lane in the 1500 and he came dead last. But he said, imagine what that was like for me as a teenager, to be running with the best runners in the world. And it said to me, British athletics think highly of me, that they put me in a race against the world champion, the Olympic champion, and everyone else. And who cares that I come last? Because, I'm learning from it.
Yeah, that's the attitude you want to see people have.
Yeah.
Sometimes it scares me when people don't. So the way I understand it, the Birmingham meet will be back after the Commonwealth Games. Is that kind of the way you think it's going to happen?
I haven't heard anything on that. I mean, I think the Birmingham event will not be in Birmingham until after the Commonwealth Games, but they could. I mean, they could have done it in Gateshead this year, but I just think they didn't think it was financially viable, particularly in an Olympic year, just in terms of making it work, and with the question of whether there'd be spectators.
How's our Olympic watch? Where are we at? 50, 60, 60, 70 this week? What's your thought process?
I would probably say 70-30 that it will happen in some form.
Okay.
But I don't know. I mean, the strange thing is the fact that most of the population in the city don't want it. And I don't know how a prime minister who's facing an election, I believe, next year, it's a big risk for him if he does something that the majority of the people don't want, and it goes badly, and he's then going back to them asking for their votes. So that to me is the thing that is strongest. But I mean, I read today that they reckon that there's about insurance companies will be liable for about $3 billion if the games don't happen.
But here's the thing. They estimate the Japanese government spent $14 billion.
Yeah.
So last weekend, out of the blue, after about 4 years, I got a call from one of the sponsors of Tokyo, a friend, someone I've known for a couple decades, who told me that the magical date is March 20th. That's the make or break date. That there most definitely will not be a foreign fans in the places. That if you and I go over, instead of being in the track seats where we are for 10 nights, we would be lucky to be there 5 nights. And there will be no probably going around to other events unless we have tickets. And that's still going to be quite difficult. They're telling the athletes, no fun times in the Olympic Village. So you mean you're going to tell kids who've just won medals and stuff like that that they can't go mess around for 3 or 4 hours? I think that's going to be a challenge too. And I think that everybody wants to see the Olympics happen, some more than others. Most people are realistic about it, but it's still very, very difficult. And it's, I find sometimes that common sense isn't that common. And then we didn't even talk about it. Thomas Bach was reelected unanimously, the Olympic committee. I suspect someday Seb Coe will run for that position. I just think he feels he's got too much else on his table. Is that correct?
I mean, I read that he will be a prime candidate when Bach finishes his second term. I mean, unless Seb decides he'd rather stay with World Athletics.
No. It's going to be, that will be a very interesting one to see.
I mean, you think that Coe did stand, having been the head of a major sport, having been an elected politician in his own country. He ticked so many boxes.
Yeah. No, I think that's true as well. I also think, though, it may play against him to be the head of the strongest sport in the sporting movement. And every once in a while, Seb has to do that thing where he has to feign no interest, and one wonders what's going on in that quick-moving brain of his. But we'll have to do a special episode on inside Seb Coe's brain in a future time. All right, I'm going to give you the names of 5 athletes who did well in Torun, and you've got 3 words to describe them.
3 words.
Jody Williams.
Talented, resilient character.
Holly Archer.
I think she overachieved. I think she was very gracious to be DQ'd and she set foundation. She set a foundation to build on.
Holly Bradshaw.
Disappointed. Medalist. And can you say unlucky? Unlucky that her bad one was the one that mattered?
Andy Posey.
Fit, which he often hasn't been. Fast, because I think that he's as fast as just about anyone apart from Grant Holloway. And very much resilient, because he's had so many setbacks, he keeps coming back.
Mondo Duplantis.
Genius, superstar, consistent.
Torun is the host of the European Indoor Champs.
Outstanding. Excellent facilities. And gingerbread.
Yes, that was the last thing. So, have you tasted their gingerbread?
No, I haven't.
Okay, that's when we go.
Yeah.
You never been? Okay. We hopefully it'll be on the World Indoor Circuit next year. We're going, and we're going to. We will do an investigation, Stuart. Okay.
Yeah.
So you have survived now, episode 43 twice. This one I think we'll be able to post. Stuart, thanks once again, my friend.
Okay.
Have a safe week. I've got a little. All my snow was gone, and it was up into the nice numbers. I was in shorts on Friday, and now I've got a couple inches of snow on the ground and a little bit of ice. So I'll tell you, it's a winter wonderland once again, my friend.
Right.
So we'll stay safe for this week, and I'll catch up with you for episode 44 next week, okay?
Indeed. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Larry Eater, RunBlogRun. This is your favorite program, Athletics Chat. This was number 43. Stuart Weir is in the intellectual and vexing capital of the world, Oxford, England. Larry Eater is in the cheese capital of the world, Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin. Go Badgers. And so ends episode 43. If you like us, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, go like. If you love us, subscribe on the YouTube. 369 videos that Mike Deering edited last year. 2,500 videos and audios since 2010. There's something for everybody. There's conversations with Larry. There's deep thoughts with Larry. There's no Led Zeppelin, but we can add that in. But check it out. And please subscribe. Hey, sports fans, Larry Eater. This is the epilogue for Athletics Chat 43. Yes, I know your favorite program. It features, from Oxford, England, the intellectual and vexing capital of the world, Stuart Weir, our European correspondent for RunBlogRun. And doesn't that sound so official? And then moi, Larry Eater, in in the cheese capital. It is the cheese capital of the world. It's Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin, man. Come on, we know our cheese is here, and we know our beer too. Anyway, I've been drinking, just so you know, I've been drinking a beer called Son of a Baptist. It's a nitro porter, milk porter, if you can find it. Quite tasty, but I have digressed. Sorry, Michael. So anyway, this is the epilogue. This is where, of course, Larry spouts off, and it's, as Michael has so definitely told me, this is a conversation with Larry too. So what did we talk about today? We reran episode 43, where we were celebrating the 36th European Indoor Athletics Championships in Torun, Poland, which Stuart and I covered remotely. He from Oxford, this person from Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin. Thanks to European Broadcasting, I had a portal where I could see all the raw feeds, the raw international feeds. But we had Phil Minshul and Adam, I think it's Sexfault. And they were doing 12 hours of announcing a day, really without a break. And they were fantastic. I mean, there was a session 1 and session 2, but when you add it all together, it's 12 hours. But there were some great performances. I'll tell you, from the 60s, there was world leaders in the 60 meters, both men and women. There was a world leader in the pole vault. There was a world leader in the long jump. There were some fantastic 1,500 and 3,000 races. It was just a great meet, and lots to write about, big numbers, social media wise. We did fantastic for the 3 days of the meet, plus the 2 days before and the 2 days after. And then we built right into the NCAA indoors this week, and the NC cross country, which we'll talk about next week, which were fantastic as well. But what we learned was that European athletics took the big chance. They brought 700 plus athletes together from 46 countries, and they had probably about a dozen people who picked up COVID. Well, actually, the British team, one person there, but they've got a quarantine at home. Giancarlo Tamberri, the high jumper from Italy, he and two of the Italian distance runners picked up COVID. The Elise Behrings from Belgium, she didn't get to compete in the final. And her stuff was weird. She had 3 tests that were negative, a positive test, and 2 tests that were negative. The Polish 4x4 team had a pullout right before the final because a couple of their guys picked it up. And all in all, they did pretty darn well. They had media, they had production people, they had tons of people that couldn't be there, but they went with the minimum. They put on a great meet. The 36th running of the European Indoor Athletics Championships was a huge success. I second-handedly got a note back from Seb Coe, who was there with Olaf Brockman at the watching the meet, and I said, "What did Seb think?" And he said Seb was so happy that there was a successful event in this time of the pandemic, and he was happy that it was an athletics event. So the only global event so far has been in athletics, EA indoor. So that's pretty cool. We spent most of the time talking about the indoor. We talked a little about COVID. We're still questioning, is Tokyo going to happen or not? I'm a little more negative than Stuart is. He says 70-30. I say 50-50. My issue is, how do people in good conscience go when, if they go on the plane, they're going to be sitting, they're going to spend 2 weeks in quarantine there and 2 weeks in quarantine back home. It's craziness right now. So, but it's what has to be done to keep people safe. I'm not going to go over unless I have both of my vaccine shots. I'm not going to really travel anywhere without that. So it's something that needs to be discussed, and in a collegial fashion. So we will speak collegially again next week on episode 44. This is Larry Eder with RunBlogRun. If you like RunBlogRun, sign up at Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. If you love it, RunBlogRun, subscribe to our YouTube channel, We have 2,500 videos and audios since 2010, 369 last year, all edited by the charming Mike Deering. And we love athletics, and we hope you do too. Stay safe. If you're indoors, wear a mask, please. If you're outdoors and you can't be 6 feet separate, wear a mask. Wash your hands, hydrate, tell somebody every day that you love them, but stay focused and get your vaccines, okay? Peace out.